Bare feet. We have children in a tree. It makes it pretty special to be a part of this community, to be able to worship God. We're going to talk about love and fear, and I'm going to start off with a little anecdote. So a thief is under the cover of darkness, breaking into a boat. He's fiddling around with the zipper of the enclosure. We know how those can get. And he hears, Jesus is watching you. He's a little freaked out, thinks it's his conscience. He can't see anyone. Continues to get the zipper open, walks inside the enclosure, this time louder and more clear. He hears, Jesus is watching you. Now he's really freaked out. He's looking all over the place, and then much to his relief in the corner, he sees a parrot. He walks up to the parrot, says, "What's your name?" The parrot goes, "Clarence." He's like, "What kind of idiot names their parrot Clarence?" The parrot responds, "The same idiot that named the Rottweiler Jesus." Okay? At this point, right, the level of fear goes from like here, and then all the way up to here, right? Point number one is that we've got fear. Like courage is not the absence of fear. It's what we do when fear is present, right? We all have fear. We talk about what this lifestyle is like to our friends, and we say, yeah, we experience highs and lows, but we experience like the highest highs and the lowest lows. When it's good, it's fairy tale good, right? Like it's like, I can't believe it's this good. But then when it's like low, it can be outright terrifying. And I don't know, I think we all have those stories where we've been caught in some kind of weather conditions or something like that. And, one of the things that fear will do is it will present itself as a great advisor. It'll come up to you and say, "Remember what you did last time? You don't want to do that again," right? I can think of a time just recently where Di and I were in the Sound, and we had no business being in the Sound on this day. The winds had clocked around sooner than they were supposed to. The waves were higher and closer together than they said they would be. Diane got sick. The dog got diarrhea. Things are flying all over the boat. Lasted for 4 hours. So fear says, "Hey, I'm going to help you not do that again." And fear seems like a really good thing, and we start to put security. See, the thing about fear is it doesn't want to just stay the great advisor. It wants to rule. It wants to grow. It's in complete competition with our relationship with God. Both want our hearts, right? And so whatever you feed is going to grow. So if we feed our relationship with God, i.e., like we came together to worship God, we're studying Bible, we're praying, we're feeding our relationship with God, we're talking about God. Or we could say, we could listen to fear, and fear says, "I'm going to keep you safe." If you just, focus on fear, you'll be safe. And it wants to take over, it wants to rule. When the voice of fear becomes greater than the voice of God, it becomes an idol. We start to worship fear rather than worshiping God. And this is how fear can undermine. It can undermine our relationship with God. I remember being in college and not being prepared for an exam. What do we do when we're afraid? We become the great negotiator with God, right? God, if you could just give me a passing grade on this test, right? And we say, well, I'll go to God, I'll pray to God. And this is what fear does. It reduces God to a vending machine, right? Like this great relationship we have with God has been reduced down to the vending machine. I'll pray to you, God. God, you give me something, right? I put in my 2 cents, I get something back. That's what fear undermines our relationship with God. The other thing, because we're talking about some basic things about fear here, the other thing that can happen is we can think because we follow God, it should always be sunny. It should always be good. And there's an inconvenient truth, and it's not global warming. It's that it rains on the righteous and the unrighteous the exact same. That if somebody that's unrighteous is going to go through an uncomfortable situation, they're going to be faced with fear. We think, well, that's not going to happen to me because I follow God. That's not true. It rains the same on the righteous and the unrighteous. And Jesus makes it very clear. Jesus says, in this world, you will face trials, plural, of many kinds. He says, take heart, have courage. I have overcome the world. But he's very, like, not sugarcoating anything. You're going to go through trials. They're going to come. That brings us to point number 2. Point number 1 is that we're all going to experience fear. All right, point number 2 is that God has a very unique perspective on fear. 365 times in the Bible, God says to his people, do not be afraid, I am with you. Now, I think of God, all-powerful God, that's great that you're with them. Why don't you just take away what they're afraid of? Never in those 365 times does he take away what they're afraid of. His answer to fear is, I am with you. God never just makes it go away. Here's an example in the Bible. So you have Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, followers of God, brought before the king. King says, unless you denounce your God and follow my gods, I'm throwing you in a fiery furnace. Right? And their response is amazing. They say, our God can save us, but even if he doesn't save us, even if he doesn't, we won't denounce our God and follow your God. There is no negotiation. There's no quid pro quo dealing with God kind of thing. Their relationship with God is so solid that fear doesn't even have a chance. Relationship with God, fear. And does God take away the flames? No. They go into the flames and he puts Jesus in with them. And are they paralyzed by fear? No. They're dancing in the flames. Somehow they're happy in the flames. So we need to figure that out. So that brings us to point number 3. Point number 3 is, I don't like it. I don't like your solution, God. I reject your reality and I substitute my own. I want you to take away my trials. I want you to take away what I'm afraid of. And we say things like, you know, I want it to go away. This is too much. I can't handle this. Right? We want it to go poof, not puff. Not puff, poof. And yet God says, hey Dave, I'm enough for you when you're afraid. Focus on me. Focus on me, God says. I'm enough for you. You know what? You may not be perfect. You may be deeply flawed. But my grace is sufficient for you to overcome. Now, that's me. And you might be thinking, you know, how dare you wrestle with God? But I know you don't like it either. And this is how I know. Is whenever we talk about prayers, what is almost the first thing that we ask for in prayers? God, take it away. Make it go poof. Take it away. And, you know, somebody's, you know, struggling. And, you know, here's the thing about God. God cares about the heart. God is dealing with the unseen things in the heart. And that's what these trials reveal. They reveal our heart. They help us to grow. And God's saying, hey, I'm going to help you through your trial. I'm not going to take away the trial. I'm going to be with you. I promise to be with you through your trial. So this is kind of a paradox, right? We're coming at it this way. God's coming at it this way. Does God need to change? Or do we need to change? Right? It's a paradigm shift that's needed. We need to change our way of thinking about it. And to do that, we're going to look at Paul. Paul had multiple stonings. Not just one stoning, multiple stonings. He was shipwrecked. He was jailed. He was flogged. How come Paul's fear didn't talk to his stupid? You think like, hey, if you got stoned once, you could do something to prevent being stoned again. Matter of fact, it got so bad that Paul got stoned to a point where he was knocked out cold. His buddies pull him out of the town. He comes to, and what does he do? He goes back into the town he was just stoned in. He's not, you know, his fear isn't talking to, like, you know, we would look at this and say, this is stupid. What are you doing? But Paul held spiritual things over physical things. He had something deeper going on. Paul knew that the world is the journey, not the destination. He put his hope in bigger, greater things than his fear. And you might think that Paul, with all these things that happened to him, would be miserable. But it's quite the contrary. In Philippians chapter 4, verse 12, he says, I have learned the secret to being content in any and every situation. I can really appreciate that. I want to learn that. Diane wants me to learn that because, like, when I'm afraid or stressed or sleep deprived, boy, am I a grouch. In 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 18, it gives us some insight. Diane read it. So we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but what is unseen, since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. You know, it's kind of brought up last Sunday. There's a lot going on in the world. And in the U.S., gosh, it's never been more divided. Both sides of the political spectrum are demonizing the other side. News has become propaganda. You don't know what to trust. And here's the thing that I think we need to remember. That the battle for good and evil is fought in the heavenly realms. It's unseen. These are forces that are unseen that drive things. We see the surface level things, and it's saying here, no, focus on what is unseen. A friend of mine once told me, if you can see it, it's not your enemy. If somebody is upsetting you, they're being driven by forces that are, this battle's fought in the heavenly realms. Colossians chapter 3, verse 2 says, set your minds on things above, not earthly things. We need to see a bigger picture. And in this, we need to find hope. Who can tell me what Emmanuel means? We hear it a lot at Christmas. It's a Hebrew word. What is it? God with us, right? That's what it means. In 1 John chapter 4, verse 18, 1 John talks about how God is love. And it's very easy to see how much we need God. But in 4 verse 18, it says, there is no fear in love. Perfect love drives out fear. So, when we refer to Emmanuel, who do we refer to? Jesus. When we refer to perfect love, who do we refer to? Jesus. When we refer to the Prince of Peace, Jesus. Wonderful Counselor, not fear, Jesus. Hope deferred, it says in Proverbs, hope deferred makes the heart sick. We have an amazing hope. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross allows us to hope in the eternal. We get to focus on love. Love has no beginning and no end. It's eternal. It's unseen. We see the acts of love. We see the effects of love. But love itself is unseen. About 95% of our character is unseen. The things that make up good character, like perseverance and patience, these are things that are unseen. Mercy, unseen. Forgiveness, unseen. These are heavenly things. These are the unseen things that it's calling us to hold on to fix our eyes on, even when the world is crazy. Hope keeps us from holding on to fear, and perfect love drives it out. Romans chapter 5, verse 1 through 5. Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, that's like just as if we've never sinned, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus the Messiah. Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace by which we have been established. And we boast because of our hope in God's glory. Not only that, but we also boast in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, endurance produces character, and character produces hope. Now this hope does not disappoint us because God's love has been poured out into our hearts by the Holy Spirit who has been given to us. Now, if you guys are here today, it means that you are the spiritually minded, bold people of the harbor. and purpose gives life meaning, and we have a great purpose. One is to know God, right? That's why we're here. We want to know God. We want to build that relationship with God. But the second part of our purpose is to make God known, right? So Deuteronomy talks about binding it to our foreheads, teaching it to our children, talking about it when you go here and when you go there. When we talk to each other, let's talk about the unseen things, the things that build our character. Let's give meaning to our relationships that goes beyond something superficial. When we hold on to what is spiritual eternal, when we give glory, which is just saying, what do we give weight to in our life? When we give glory or weight to the unseen things and we fix our eyes and our minds on things above, the hope we profess cannot be taken away no matter what adversity or suffering comes our way. In love, there is no fear. Jesus has already overcome the world. The battle has already been won. God is with us, and to God be the glory.